Hello, I'm Keely Day. I'm the head of service and solutions at Smart Commercial Solar. We are one of Australia's leading commercial solar and renewable energy EPCs. That's engineering, procurement, construction. So we do a lot of on-site solar in the commercial industrial markets. In talking about the changing landscape, I guess we should first identify what the landscape is that we're in at the moment and that we're coming from. So as we've talked about a lot today, power prices are very volatile. I don't really need to talk any more about that. But on the solar side, and especially on-site solar, the industry has matured a lot. So even in the past 5 years, a lot of the players who were in the market 5 years ago are no longer in the market for various reasons. But also the cost has changed, the way that we can implement it has changed, the standards environment has changed. But it's matured into a much more stable market than what it was. And mostly everyone either has or is getting solar or has explored solar and knows where they sort of sit with it. These two pictures I've shown on the left of the screen here is the same sort of section of an industrial estate in Orchard Hills. In 2016 versus now, you can see that in 2016 there's probably maybe 30 kilowatts of solar on one of those roofs. You wouldn't even be able to see it from where you're sitting. But now every one of those buildings has solar on it. Solar is not a new invention anymore, and it's certainly not a new thing to the market. So what does that mean in terms of where we're headed? So again, power prices, I guess I'll leave that to the experts who've already spoken at length about it today. Solar is probably going to get a little bit cheaper maybe, but we've seen it fluctuate over the last few years. The way we can utilise it is certainly getting better. We've got better access to better equipment and better control of that equipment. And the way we can utilise it is becoming a lot broader because of that control we now have over the hardware. Batteries are probably getting cheaper, more likely than solar. They're definitely getting a lot better. The way that we can utilise batteries on site has come a long way and is continuing to get better at a pretty rapid rate. There's still some unfounded territory there that we can move into that will continue to service into the future. And then the key thing really is the better interconnectivity between these on-site aspects. Again, we're getting better control over these things and we're getting better ability to control multiple things at once so that we can optimize for your site and find the best way for you to either cut your energy spend or actually generate revenue that you couldn't otherwise access. What is also happening at the same time is that we're entering a more challenging environment in terms of constructing these. There's more stringent standards coming out around roof loading and switchboards. The network constraints are causing issues in terms of our ability to actually get solar on your site. Just the other day, Western Power came out with an email to probably every solar EPC saying that their connection application timeline has moved out to 6 to 12 months. Because of the fact that they're used to dealing with 3,000 applications. Now they're dealing with 7,000 in a year. That's going to apply across all of the networks. There's a massive boom happening in this industry, and it is going to impact how easy it is for you to get solar on your site. There's other constraints as well that we're facing. The low-hanging fruit in terms of solar sites are sort of starting to run out. We're looking at sites now that are having issues with landlord approvals. They have issues with an embedded network that they're in. There's not many really easy sites left for us to hit. Right? We're kind of hitting the more difficult ones that couldn't get it 5 years ago or 3 years ago. So how do we future-proof then in this environment and in this environment we're moving into? Look, the simplest way that I can see for a business that's facing a volatile energy market to hedge their energy costs is to sign a PPA for on-site solar. There's no upfront CapEx involved, and you know exactly what you're going to spend on that energy for the term of that PPA. So that portion of your energy is now a fixed cost for as long as you set that PPA. It's pretty likely, in 95% of these cases, that's cash positive from day one as well. So where we're talking for 0 for 0 before, you're not getting all the way to zero with an on-site PPA, but you're getting closer to it and you're making money on it, and you get stability over the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years that you're not going to get anywhere else in this market. From that, you then need to think about, well, how do I take that energy price of my PPA and turn that into certainty on what I'm going to get out of it? You need to de-risk your system output. So you need to deal with expert companies that will actually maintain and service these systems long into the future and can offer you products where they can take on the risk of the product generation. So generation guarantees are a classic example. You can get from a few providers now, generation guarantees that run out until your system is fully out of steam, and you'll get the generation you're expecting every year from that system, or generally they'll recompensate you for the generation that they couldn't get out of it. So there's no risk on you in getting that generation. There's no risk on you in the power price, and you're getting this clean energy on your site. We can also look at better utilising your space. There is space that's underutilised on sites in Australia, and I'll go into a couple of those in the next case studies. But it's also really important that we just build a system with the future in mind, be able to integrate batteries, be able to integrate demand management, be able to integrate better controls as those technologies become available. And as those markets become available, we were talking earlier about retailers being able to play into demand management. That market is opening up pretty quickly now. But if you don't have the system built in a way that you can interact with their control systems, it's useless. You're going to have to start from scratch and rebuild it so that it can. And then, just generally deal with experts who understand the stakeholders, understand your needs on site, and understand how to best serve you. A couple of examples of how we've done this. This is Breakers Country Club on the Central Coast. They already had the solar on the roof there, but they were resurfacing the car park, and they obviously wanted to hedge their energy costs over 20 years. So we set up a 20-year PPA, blended with some CapEx contribution to bring down that long-term cost. And that PPA included a lot of the works on site that beyond just the solar panels on it, right? The steelworks constructing that car park are included, for example. So now they've got this real iconic structure at the front of their building that's, bringing shade to their patrons and all those basic things. But they're also looking at 20 years where they understand their energy costs a lot better than what they otherwise would. And they've utilised this space that they otherwise couldn't really do much with other than park cars on it. They can still do that, but now they're getting an added benefit. This is another site, McCain Foods in Ballarat. They had a paddock next to their site that had been earmarked for various projects over the years. But eventually they came to the decision that they would use it for a solar farm on site. So we've constructed 7.5 megawatts of single axis trackers on this site. Again, a 20-year PPA. They've combined it with a 1.2 megawatt biodigester project. And this is, at the time, the largest behind the meter PPA in Australia. Again, it included things outside the scope of the general works as well. So there was a new RMU and some HV works on the site that they could wrap into that PPA to make it financially viable for them in a CapEx sense. And they've still got that 20-year benefit where they know what their energy costs are going to look like for a pretty significant portion of their usage on site. And then finally, we did some work for Semco as well. We had they were a site, I'm bringing this one up on a different sort of angle. They're a site that's in an embedded network, and there was significant challenges to getting that to the point where they could construct that and have the landlord be happy, the embedded network operator, obviously the landlord as well, being happy. This is where it comes down to dealing with professionals and people who understand how to speak the language of the different stakeholders and get the project to a point where you can deliver something that's going to benefit your business. It's not going to impact their business in a negative way. It might impact their business in a positive way. But you need to be able to deal with people who understand how to present it to all the stakeholders in a way that delivers that.